Key witness to WTC 7 explosions, dead at age 53.
Ira Hayes.
Emergency coordinator, a 9/11 witness, Barry Jennings, has passed away with controversy about WTC 7 still hot, as the BBC hit piece and NIST report have been released to counter Jennings' exclusive testimony on explosions inside Building 7. Now, we interviewed him for Loose Change Final Cut. He then, word got out about it. He begged us, saying he'd been threatened, saying his pension had been threatened, his job had been threatened, and other threats. Wouldn't specify what those were if he didn't shut up. Then he didn't really recant. He said, yeah, there were explosions, yeah, before the towers fell in Building 7. And he said, well, it could have been bodies. But earlier he said they were bodies on the ground. Then his boss just came out in the last few weeks and was interviewed by the BBC saying, I never saw explosions, though he had said that on news that day along with Mr. Jennings. Very suspicious that he's dead at 53. Now, it was Aaron Dykes who confirmed this yesterday. We kept hearing about it for weeks, but could find no news articles. We earlier, and others had called where he worked with the city. They'd said, no, we're not going to talk about it. We finally got them to admit yesterday that he indeed was dead, but they wouldn't say the cause. We've now talked to his bosses. They've said, yeah, we knew Barry. He is dead. We can't say why he's dead. Others said at the office, we don't know why he's dead, and acted very, very suspicious. So we're going to be breaking this down in the next 45 minutes or so with Aaron Dykes and Jason Burmis. The problem is, see, he's credible because he was the deputy emergency manager of that area. So that's why they had to get rid of him. And I have no doubt they killed him. And there's a 95% chance, especially now they're being very secretive. Barry Jennings, a key 9/11 eyewitness who was an emergency coordinator for the New York Housing Authority, has passed away at age 53 from circumstances not yet disclosed. And this is almost a month later, folks. Very suspicious. Kind of like it was very hard to find out that Dr. Ivins with the anthrax, who they now admit was a patsy, was killed inside government facilities. A spokesman for the Housing Authority has now confirmed his death after weeks of rumors circulating online, but refused to give any further details. We talked to him again this morning. Aaron's coming up. The office has not yet been able to contact anyone in the Jennings family, and the official cause of death is not yet known, but online reports have reported the date of the death as August 19th, 2008. Since yesterday, we have confirmed with his office the date is the 19th. In a very unusual, it is very unusual that a prominent, controversial 9/11 witness would die only days before the release of the NIST report. See, people say, well, why 7 years later was he killed? This was all coming out. There was talk of subpoenaing him, that they're about to probably get enough signatures to have it on the ballot for a New York investigation of 9/11. Talk of calling him before a grand jury. It is very unusual that a prominent, controversial 9/11 witness would die only days before the release of NIST report on WTC 7, and shortly after a firestorm erupted over the testimony that he had heard explosions inside the building prior to the collapse of either tower, and that they were dead bodies in the building blown out of the lobby. The BBC aired the third tower in July in an attempt to debunk Barry Jennings' account, which is both contradictory and damaging to the official 9/11 story, by making an issue over whether or not he saw dead bodies in the lobby. And see, we hadn't released this video because he'd asked us not to. Then the BBC came to the Loose Change crew and to Dylan and said, you're lying. He didn't say that. And Dylan showed him the video. And so they went and had an actor play the part of Jennings to basically reenact things in a false fashion. Very suspicious. Yet Jennings' own statement in an exclusive interview with Dylan Avery and Jason Burmis, which has not been denied, was the firefighter who took us down kept saying, don't look down, and I say why, and we are stepping over people. You know, you can feel when you're stepping over people. We're going to continue with this on the other side with Jason Burmis and in studio Aaron Dykes, who ferreted this out. And we're going to tie this into the D.C. Madam and other high-profile murders, assassinations like Vince Foster. Giuliani says, yeah, we were told to get out of Building 7 that day before either tower fell. And we had a terror attack drill with FEMA set up the night before, so we'd already moved out of the building the night before in Tripod 2. And people said, what? Of course, FEMA deputy director earlier, Kennedy, had said just that, and then it was a big controversy the day of 9/11 that, well, we already arrived the night before for the terror attack. Then he said, oh, no, that was a mistake, slip of the tongue. Then it came out they indeed had, and it was called Operation Tripod 2. Of an anthrax attack on Building 7 in the World Trade Center complexes, which they'd used in months before to evacuate the whole building several times for drills and $1 billion renovation of the service floors. It has service floors every few floors and side passages. And Marvin Bush running that, of course. No big deal. Confirm it. Go confirm it for yourself. Our source on that is Barbara Bush. Her memoir written 4 years ago about her great son running security there. Nice people. Now, news of Jennings' death comes on the heels of losing another 9/11 hero and eyewitness, Kenny Johnneman, who reportedly committed suicide 12 days before the 7th anniversary. He's credited with saving at least one man's life on 9/11 and was also a witness to explosions in the towers. This report, as well as how the 9/11 Commission, which does not even mention Building 7, completely ignores statements from the Building 7 leaseholder Larry Silverstein, as well as numerous police and firefighters and other eyewitnesses who have testified that they were warned about the building's collapse and told to get back because it was going to be a controlled demolition. One rescue worker even heard the countdown from the building's implosion over the emergency radios. Unfortunately, Barry Jennings, whose testimony was ignored by the 9/11 Commission, can no longer raise questions personally about his experience inside WTC-7. Our own movement is, in a concerted fashion, saying 9/11 truth is dead. 9/11 truth peaked in 2006. I'm seeing the same terms in put out. And that's what these guys will do. They'll come on the scene. They'll be patriots for about a year. We've seen this over and over again. They'll try to gain credibility, and then they'll just run their operation. Well, so they've been announcing, oh, 9/11 truth's dead, 9/11 truth's over. Meanwhile, it's bigger than ever. But the bottom line is Dylan Avery had more discussions with Jennings about, I remember Dylan telling me, threats against his pension, threats against his job, and more, that he was worried about his family, and that he said more, but Dylan wouldn't say because it was off the record. Well, he's dead now. And Dylan's all freaked out. Hey, Dylan, let me tell you how this works. If they think you know something, you're not safe till you let that out. Look at the hundreds killed that knew stuff about the Kennedy assassination. And then their family members they told stuff got killed. This isn't a joke. So, Dylan, you better... I told the D.C. madam this. She's dead. She didn't listen. I said on air and off air, you better spill the beans. Now, listen, Dylan Avery. They know you talked to Jennings. Now, you better go on this show or another show, or you better write it up on your blog or do a video blog right now. I know you've never taken any of my advice, but the point is you better take it now. I read the book written by Jim Garrison who went through this stuff. This isn't a game, people. These people run child kidnapping rings. They kill children. They don't care. They like it. Burmis, this is incredible. What do you say?
Well, just the whole chain of events from Aaron calling me about a week after Jennings had actually died and said, we're getting these emails and there's these posts. And I said to him, well, let me see what I can find out. So I called up Dylan, and of course, right away Dylan didn't want to believe it. But I said, well, who can you get in touch with? And
wouldn't call him, had the home phone number, and wouldn't give it to us.
He had Jennings' cell at the time. He didn't have the home phone number, which we got last night, but he had the cell, and he didn't want to give him a call and be like, are you dead or whatever. But he, basically he pawned it off on Michael Rudin, who did that BBC hit piece. And this is what really disturbs me. Now, Rudin probably had more contact information than anybody on Jennings. He had a sit-down interview with him on the BBC, obviously had his cell number, obviously knew where he worked, and Dylan contacted him that day. And Rudin said he would look into it. Now, I was down at Ground Zero on 9/11, and I ran into Dylan, and Dylan said, I just ran into Rudin again. So, again, me and Dylan meet up on 9/11 in New York City, and he says, I just happened to cross Michael Rudin, and I asked him about Barry, and he said he still hadn't come up with anything. Now, this is a BBC journalist, again, who has all of this man's contact information. actually 3 weeks almost after his death.
Yeah, this is huge. 3 weeks after his death.
And he can't confirm it. However,
we got to call the BBC. We got to call this guy. He sees Dylan at 9/11 last week in New York and says, "Oh, I haven't nailed that down. I don't know if he's dead or not." Now, that right there, he needs to be interrogated on that subject. Boy, I tell you, this is amazing.
Yeah, and not only does he not know if he's dead, but he finds the only other witness in World Trade Center 7, and he's more than happy to go along with the official version that he now says there was no explosion. It was just dust coming up the stairs. Really? Dust coming up the stairs trapped you in the building for another 2 hours, Mr. Hess? Could it have anything to do with the fact that he heads up Giuliani Partners in the private sector?
And he retracted conveniently after Barry Jennings went bye-bye.
Yeah, just magically.